3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Welcome to the Remote Photography Podcast. In this episode, I speak with model Jade Lyon about her remote photography experiences. Enjoy the podcast. Hi Jade, thanks for doing the podcast. If people don't know who you are, can you give us a brief outline of your career, please?
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me. I've been modelling now for probably 13 years, which is quite a long time when you think about it, actually. I started modelling I'd always studied photography. So I modelled for friends. So I got into modelling through photography, essentially. My friends asked me to pose for them. We'd photograph each other and they'd put their work online, and they had people asking who the model was in the photos. So it was, my friends kind of pushed me into the modelling, and luckily I really enjoyed it, and here we are today.
So obviously after the last year with the pandemic, how did you find out about remote shooting? Was it people had approached you or you'd seen people posting online?
I've actually been pretty late to the game. I only started remote shooting in the latest lockdown, the third lockdown. I've seen a lot of models and photographers doing it from a year ago, from the very first lockdown. Some of them are quite quick on it. And I think it's one of those things that everyone has found. You're a little bit skeptical at first. It's taken me until the third lockdown to actually jump on it and think, you know what, I've got the setup for it. People are now coming out with some really cool stuff. So I want to give it a go.
So was it more like the technical aspect? Because you said you had the camera ready. You just thought, by the summer we'll be back to shooting in person?
Yeah, I think I was hoping, because after the first lockdown, we were back out eventually, and you could get out. I was out shooting between lockdowns. I also, in the first lockdown, I actually did like model vouchers instead. So people could buy vouchers, and then when we were allowed back out into the world, they could then use those. So in the first lockdown, that was something that kept me going. And then by the third one, I thought, I need to do something different. So I guess I'll give the remote shooting a go now.
So you said you were late to the game. Did you started at the beginning of this year, or was it just like in December when the third lockdown started?
It was around Christmas time in the third lockdown, because I had my Christmas tree all set up with fairy lights around it. And I thought that actually, why don't I start doing some Christmas themed stuff? Because I had some ideas for sitting with the Christmas tree. And that's where those ideas came in, where I play around with fairy lights a lot, which it has just become a sort of a big thing for me. I've just really enjoyed playing with fairy lights. It's just simple and very effective. So it started with Christmas tree fairy lights, and now I have fairy lights all over my house.
It's become an addiction, has it?
Yeah, they didn't go away. Like when the Christmas decorations were packed up, the fairy lights stayed out.
So you've mentioned that you had the camera ready. What's the current setup you're using?
So I'm quite lucky at the moment that I made the switch from DSLR to mirrorless, a couple of years ago now. So I've got the Canon EOS R, and I've got a few prime lenses with that, just because I'm a prime shooter anyway. So I've got a 50mm, 85mm and 35mm. And I found the EOS R to be really useful as well with having eye autofocus on it. So it tracks my face and my eye as I move, because with remote shooting, I'm sure as you'll know, there's a slight delay when you press the shutter, just with it getting over the internet. There's a few seconds delay when shooting. So I've just found that with that eye autofocus on my camera, it just helps to speed up the process a little bit, so people don't have to click and focus and then take the picture. So that's been really useful.
So I know people use different software like Zoom, AnyDesk, etc. What have you found is the best thing for you? Because obviously you're using Canon, so you use the Canon software. What's the best setup you found that's worked for you?
Yeah, so I use the Canon EOS utility software. I was using that anyway for self-portraits. So either connecting the camera mainly to my phone before remote shooting, so I could go out on location, use my phone to focus and press the shutter, because it really beats the days of running back and forth to the camera. So I was already familiar with that software. So I realized that actually I've got the equipment, I'm familiar with the software, so I'm pretty set up to go with the remote shooting.
And how have you found it? Because obviously it's a bit slower than an in-person shoot. Have you had to adapt to that, or have you found it refreshing that everything's slowed down a little bit?
I really enjoy the pace, actually. Yeah. It's quite nice that it's a little bit slower. And also it means that the communication is so important between the photographer and model. The photographer can let the model just pose away. Yeah. But with the slight delay and changing of posing and things like that, with the photographer just giving extra direction and things like that, it's really useful.
Has it been, because obviously you've only started a few months ago when we're recording this, has it been more people that you've shot with before in person, or has it been more people that you haven't worked with before that have decided because you're doing remote shooting to suddenly work with you?
I think it's been a lot of new people actually that I haven't worked with before, because we're in totally different locations in the country. It started out with a lot of UK-based photographers, but in very different places. So suddenly it gave them the opportunity to work with me. I also shot with one guy that I worked with on an event in Dublin. He was one of the first people I shot with as well, who was then, he'd actually moved to Portugal. So we were shooting from UK to Portugal.
So who or how far away have you shot with people? Have they all been UK based, Europe, or have you shot like in people with photographers from, say, America or New Zealand or Australia, somewhere like that?
I've mainly worked with UK based people and then sort of a handful of people from other countries, but it's been anywhere from Chicago to Portugal, Brussels. And then, even places in the UK, sort of totally different ends of the country, such as Scotland as well.
Have you had to adapt, say, someone's in a different country and the time zone's been different? Because you've got lights and reflectors and stuff like that, have you found that you've been able to offer times during the whole day, or have you kept it to a specific time during the day?
Although I have studio lighting, I actually started using the studio lighting a bit more. But now I've kind of pared it back a bit to trying to work with natural light, just because I found the flow a bit easier with the lighting. Again, you just have to work that bit slower, I find, which, is great if a photographer has a specific idea, that it's been really good to have the studio lighting available to use. But I've mainly ran with natural light. So, the time differences can be quite a lot. So I have had photographers get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to shoot with me, and I feel quite bad. But then the natural light, I let people know, is best in my house at sort of certain times, generally around sort of midday-ish or sort of like 11 o'clock onwards. So some people have got up very early, which is very nice.
It means they'll do the early morning start just because obviously they want to shoot with you. So with the remote shoots you've done, is there any memorable ones that come to mind straight away?
There's a few that have been just a little bit different. So I do offer sort of particular themes that I'm able to do from my home. So one has been what I call a soft Sundays theme, which is just my own take on that typical lazy Sunday feel of the very relaxed Sunday morning casual style. And then also I do a hippie house theme, which is actually a very simple setup of sort of sari fabric backdrops, and I've got lots of retro props as well. I like to think it's simple but effective. I know some models are amazing at creating these big, incredible sets. Mine's a little bit more simple, but still creates that hippie feel. And then some people have actually gone totally off theme, and they've given me mood boards, and I've looked at mood boards sometimes, and even with yours, actually, John, which was the hippie theme, you sent me these incredible mood boards with amazing photos, and I thought, oh gosh, right, I feel like this is going to be a bit of a challenge with my set design because I want to really make it look that good. Mm-hmm. And that pushes me to then come up with new ideas. So I've thought of different things I can use in the set that I haven't used before. And suddenly I've sort of created new sets, which has been great. I've also worked with a photographer called Frankie in Brussels, who's a lifestyle stock photographer. We started with a shoot that was very simple, sort of waking up in the morning in bed with alarm clocks and phones and things as props. But the other day I did a shoot with him because he knows that on the side I actually do woodwork and rustic furniture making along with my partner Raj. So he said, could we do you woodworking as a photo shoot?
So it's combining two things that you've been doing over lockdown.
Yeah, exactly. So that was very different. And again, it feels like quite a challenge. It's like, oh, okay, can we do that? I don't know. Yeah. And we did it just from my own little garden. One of the things that I really wanted to do is a location remote photo shoot. But being in the countryside, data, internet, that's always a problem. So we just did it from my own little garden because that way we could use my internet, and we set up all the tools and everything in the garden, and it actually worked surprisingly well. And we wrote my partner into it as well to do some couples things. And again, it was just totally different to what I had been doing. And it's great when you then see the photos and you're like, oh, we pulled it off.
Yeah. And it gives you another thing possibly in the future. You're now thinking, oh, I can do like a woodwork theme if someone wants to do that, because when they see the pictures come through, they might want to do that as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I did realise I missed a trick with that one because I thought, oh, we could do angle grinding and getting like the spray of the sparks and things like that. So it has given me food for thought. I'm like, oh, that could be quite cool.
I've got a name for it. It just popped in my head. Woodwork Wednesdays.
I could have one for every day of the week.
Yeah. Well, you got the soft Sundays. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it looks like from your remotes, you've gone down more like a themed style of remote shoots rather than offering up, say, like somebody gives you a mood board and you can do that. Was that because of the locations you had available, and was it able that you could have sets standing up, or you could put them up and break them down easily?
So one of my themes is in my spare room, so I can just leave that set up all the time, which is great. And because I was a bit later to the remote shooting, I just thought there's so many models out there offering remote photo shoots now. I also just wanted to give people the opportunity to do something a little bit different with my themes. So although, as people have, they still come to me with mood boards of their own ideas, the themes I do just give something, offer something a little bit different, I think. So the boho hippie one is in my living room. So that is a bit more setting up because I set it up and then I take it down again. But I have now actually brought a fabulous new sofa, which will fit that theme really nicely. So I'm quite excited to shoot that a little bit more because I can even incorporate that. And obviously it always stays in the room. So my living room is just becoming the sort of hippie den now.
But has it made you look at your locations you have available differently now, whereas before you might have walked by, say, a wall or something, didn't really think about it, but now you look and go, oh, hold on, I could make that a little set?
Yeah, definitely. The challenge of shooting from your own home, I think everyone has found, is that it's great because it makes you think of things to do in your house that you would never have thought of. So it pushes you to look at your space differently or change things around to create nice little spaces. And also what I found with sort of becoming a bit of a set designer almost as well is that I'm thinking a lot about the colours in the set and the sort of styling and themes for the photos as well. So when the photographer comes to me with an idea, or I'm doing one of the themes, but I like to change it each time to make it different, I'll think of a new colour palette with the props, with the fabrics, the bedding, the textures. And that I'm finding when I've been doing self-portraits as well is kind of, it brings it all together a bit more when you think about the environment so much.
So you mentioned you've done self-portraits a few times during the podcast. With that and remote photography, did it make the transition to doing remote photography a bit easier?
I'm not going to lie, taking self-portraits is so frustrating, which I'm sure some other people will find. So remote shooting and having someone there controlling the camera and doing all that sort of thing is much more fun. It's so much more fun that way.
And with, say, having to set up, like you say, set designs, lights and stuff like that, has that become something you've enjoyed doing? Or is it one of the things that you think, oh, I have to put the lights, do the sets every time you do a remote shoot?
I love the set designing. Like I said, I've sort of bought our first ever sofa. We're still at that stage where we've got higgledy-piggledy furniture from family members and that sort of thing. But now I guess I'm thinking about our house and decor even more, and I've really enjoyed it. And also from a photographer's point of view as well, I've found just considering the set designing much more can really add to the photo. So it's been a really good learning curve, actually.
So if someone approaches you for a remote shoot, one, how do they do it? Have you found it's been through, say, like the Facebook groups, through your website, or through your social media, first of all?
It's been a mix of totally different places. So social media, the Facebook groups, Purple Port. So I guess anywhere where I'm sharing my work and sharing the remote shoot photos that I've been doing, people are getting in touch with me wherever they're seeing it.
So wherever Jade is, they can find your work and get in contact with you that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Instagram. The Facebook groups have been really good to have a place just for remote shooting and bring all that together and see all the totally different things that everyone is doing. It's been amazing for creativity during lockdown.
Have you found the Facebook groups to be able to focus, say like you're doing your hippie house on a certain day? Have you found that it's been easier to advertise that in those groups and focus that you're doing it? Or have you had to do like a wider net, so say like post on Purple Port on your Instagram to see if you could sell those?
I do find it a bit difficult to keep up with everything, to be honest. So I'm not as active in the Facebook groups as some people, but just when I've done something a little bit different or got new work to share, I will post in them. But with the particular themes I'm doing, I kind of generally post in each different place, the Facebook groups, Instagram and Purple Port. Yeah, although I'm not that regular and active, like in particular Facebook groups, I kind of try to cover all platforms best I can.
Yeah. And how have you found the remote shooting? Has it been like a constant inflow of photographers wanting to shoot with you, or as we've gone through lockdowns, have you seen it gone up and down?
When I first started out with the remote photo shoots, it's a new model offering a shoot, so I got quite an influx of people. And I did think I was going to do it like a model day. And I spoke to some other models and they said they thought the same thing. So to do it like a model day where you choose a specific dates and you have time slots to put multiple people on a day. But then once you get started doing the remote shoots and doing the set design and the planning and setting up the equipment and everything, you soon realise that that's not really feasible. So I much prefer now to do one shoot a day so I can concentrate on each person's ideas and take time to create the sets as well. So I'm not having to rush or anything like that. And now it's still a nice steady flow. The beginning of this third lockdown was definitely the busiest because I just announced I'd started it. But yeah, it's a nice steady flow now, so I can take that time to concentrate on each one.
And what do you find the best length of doing remote? Like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4?
I've done all different time lengths from a 1-hour shoot to probably longest, I'd say, is a 4-hour shoot. I think I've done. I guess 2 hours is quite a nice sweet spot because, I mean, 2 hours seems to fly by anyway.
Yeah.
So a 1 hour is just so short and sharp. 4 hours has been great to actually fit in like very different set ideas if people want to do some very different looks within one shoot. Yeah, so it depends what people want to go for, really.
I'm interested that you said 1 hour because everyone seems to like 2 hours at a minimum. 1 hour, did it feel rushed, or was it someone just wanted one look so it was easier to do?
I have only done a couple of them. I think because it's remote shooting, you know, I don't mind. I'm not traveling anywhere or anything like that. And obviously people have different budgets as well. So you might only be able to do an hour. Luckily, the people I have only shot with an hour for have had very specific ideas. They've even sent me posing ideas they want to try. So we've actually managed to get what they wanted in that time really well. They've been very organised about it, luckily, because sometimes time can run away with you and you can get a bit lost. So definitely by having specific ideas in mind to get through helped massively with it.
So when a photographer approaches you for a shoot, what's the best way that you've found that they can get their ideas across before a shoot? I think you mentioned mood boards on your website, but do some just send you an email or drop you a message and then you ask for a mood board, or just some just look at the stuff you've done and think, oh, I've seen you've done something with fairy lights, we're just going to focus on that, and then leave it to be on the day?
Yeah, it totally varies. Some people love one of my themes and they just want to run with that idea and are happy just to be flexible on the day. And other people will send me a mood board. One thing I have actually found difficult with the Facebook groups is if the photographer isn't known to me already, I can't necessarily see their work if their profile's private and things like that. So they might drop me a message, but I'll have to ask for a link to their work so I can see their style. And then I might ask for more information and say, you know, would you like to send me a mood board of your ideas and things like that. So that's one of the limitations I've found with the Facebook pages. You know, whereas Instagram or Purple Port, something like that, you see their portfolio there in front of you and get more of an idea for their style. Yeah, so people have either on Instagram sent me image ideas or have emailed me mood boards. Pinterest, just a link to Pinterest as well often. That's the case. Yeah, I mean, a mood board's fantastic for getting something unique for your photo shoot. So like our photo shoot we did as well. It gives me inspiration for styling and my set as well, and the sort of style you want to achieve.
Well, because I've seen, I'm just looking at your Pinterest because I found it on your website, that you've used the Pinterest to show the set, so it gives people an idea of what is available to shoot.
Yeah, exactly. So with my modelling, I have compiled together like a wardrobe Pinterest because I found that, you know, I've got so many photos in my different outfits. I suddenly realised it's much easier to try to show photographers what sort of outfits I have, because then they can have a little look through and get an idea and pick things out. So then I thought the same with my home, especially as I'm remote shooting, to just take some photos, to put it together on Pinterest in mood board, just to show the space. So they're not necessarily set up for my themed shoots, but it just gives people an idea for the space that I'm shooting in, because sometimes, you know, you're just going in blind and you don't know how big the rooms are or what's in the room as well, because often people are having to move furniture and things around just to get the space.
So how was the best way that someone could approach you if they wanted to do a remote shoot with you? I would guess a lot have gone through social media, but which way do you prefer? Do you prefer if people go through your website so it's all in one place, or through, say, Purple Pool or the Facebook groups?
Generally, my preference would be Instagram, or if they've seen the link to my website on the Facebook pages through there, or on Purple Port if people are on that as well. I mean, I just struggle with Facebook a bit for some reason. I don't always see my notifications. I have to remember to go and specifically look at them. And like I said as well, I can't necessarily see the photographer's work. So that's why sometimes I find other platforms a bit better for that. But yeah, I'm just JadeLyon across all of them. So yeah, people can contact me on any.
So obviously now, fingers crossed, in the next few months we'll be able to do in-person shooting. Do you find remote shooting is going to be something now you'll be able to take forward and offer even when you're doing like tours or in studios?
Yeah, I definitely want to keep up remote shooting. And I think most people have said that as well, that they want to. I did recently post, a little poll on my Instagram to say, are people still looking to remote shoot, or are you going to be getting out as soon as you can to do in-person shoot? And I think now in the UK, because we're so close to being allowed out in the world a little bit.
Yeah, well, we could still cock it up, yeah.
I think people are focusing a bit more now at this moment on getting back out. So I think in-person shoots will take over for a while.
Yeah.
But then, like you say, if models are traveling to different places and if I'm staying in interesting places, then I might be able to offer remote photo shoots from interesting locations I'm staying in. And I will even continue to do remote photo shoots from home because I think now people have seen that it opens it up to people that might have like mobility issues that can't go out onto locations. So this kind of brings different locations to them. There are sort of some good reasons to still continue it. One thing I found really useful to play around with for keeping it simple but really effective is playing around with the perspective, using the fairy lights, or John, like we did with my retro phone prop, is playing with that perspective. So having things close to the lens. Sometimes I think in photos, the foreground can often be missed. And I really love using the foreground and playing around with that anyway. So I've been able to bring that into my remote photo shoots to suggest those ideas, and then often people will run with that and will start suggesting things and playing around with the angles, the perspective. So putting things close to the lens, using leading lines coming towards me. So in our retro phone photo, we had the phone itself.
In the foreground, yeah,
close to the lens, and then I had the receiver with the cord sort of as a leading line coming towards me in the portrait. So things like that. It's just thinking of these little things that can just add a different element, an extra element to the photo. And especially with the fairy lights, it can be a bit Instagram-y.
Yeah, true, yeah.
But it's great. I love it. Yeah, so you're getting with the fairy lights, you're getting the ambient light as well. That adds an extra element, the bokeh and things like that. Some people ask, actually, with the fairy light bokeh, if I've added that in post, or the photographer's added it in post after. Yeah, it's great if we can play around with those things in camera to create something a bit different. That's one thing that's been able to create sort of unique looks for each photographer.
Yeah, because obviously you mentioned our shoot, and it was like someone during the course of the shoot went, "I've got a vintage phone. Do you want to use it?" So, and it was like, oh, "Okay, let's use it." And it ended up being in quite a few shots. No, which was good. But then also we did. There was that like one in your living room where we started playing with plants in the foreground and stuff, and we got an FPI from one of the shots on Purple Port for.
Yes, exactly. So. Yeah, a little bit of foliage in the foreground, just creating that softness and a little bit of colour as well. And especially because that was the boho look as well.
Yeah, it fitted
really
in.
Helped with that theme and that style. I love the stuff we got. That was great.
But I also love, say, like, because I'm just looking at your website again, where you've got the bed sheet, and I know at the end of the shoot, you said you'd just got a new canvas, was it? And then you just wanted to do some like fashion ones, and we adapted like a wooden box that you could sit on as well. Yeah,
so a few models are doing this actually. I don't know The story behind the canvas backdrop is actually it's a dust sheet.
Oh, okay.
But the dust sheet's 100% cotton.
Yeah.
I mean, clothes these days aren't 100% cotton, so it's amazing for dust sheet. And yeah, my partner Raj went to wherever to buy some tools and things for the woodworking and came back with a dust sheet for me. I don't know if this is how it's worked for other models. Their partner's gone to like B&Q or whatever and come back with a dust sheet. And that has worked surprisingly well. It's really beautiful because of the texture of the fabric. I think, did we do a couple of different outfits in front of it as well?
Yeah, it was like if I remember rightly, like a mustard top and trousers.
Anything seems to go with it, but also it's so simple. You can create totally different looks with it as well. You can either go moody or you can go light and airy with it. Yeah, the dust sheet is so lovely and textured. It's like similar look, I think, to these hand-painted canvas backdrops.
Exactly, yeah.
But I love a good bargain or a bit of a makeshift idea. So yeah, dust sheet works for me.
Yeah, but it's like your brain looked at the dust sheet and went, "Oh, hold on, that can be like a canvas if I hang it up."
Yeah,
so,
and the same thing with the bed sheets as well that I use for backdrops. I've seen a lot of people do it with just a white bed sheet in quite a fashiony sort of way. I've seen it a lot on Instagram, but I had a lot of colourful bed sheets. So I just thought, why not try using them? And I keep the fabric quite drapey still in my photos because I just think that I don't want to try to create a studio look because I think it's a remote shoot. It's supposed to be something a bit different. So I create the sort of drapes in it. So it's sort of hanging down, a bit drapey, a bit textured. So it is something a bit different.
Thanks, Jade, for doing the podcast. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me across most platforms. I'm JadeLyon, Lyon. That's on Instagram, Purpleport, Facebook. Other brands are available.
Have you done podcasts before, or is this the first one you've done?
This is the first one I've done.
Everyone's saying that this time around. It's like, I thought some people had done them, at least photography ones, but everyone's going, no, it's my first one. It's like, oh, okay, thanks. So what software do you use? Because I know some people use AnyDesk, some people use Zoom, some people use EOS. Oh, come on, John. You've done like 12 of these. Come on. And because you said you've mentioned a couple of times, oh, you okay there? I had something.
Sorry, I'm just picking the laptop. You can find me at JadeLyon, Lyon, rather than like the animal lion. JadeLyon across most social medias, Instagram, Purpleport, Facebook. I don't know where to start now. Sorry.